I'd love to begin just by asking you about that partnership and how that transformation has happened.
Thank you. Very pleased to be here. Good morning, all. No, Formula One has been a great partnership. I think the CEO says that prior to COVID, every race involved taking 3 Boeing full of equipment, and he called it a traveling circus. And we have been able to transform that completely. Now, amazing how the teams work. 24 races around the world globally, bringing all the signals from the cameras, from all the sound. We bring it all to London, and then it gets produced here and then taken to millions of viewers around the world, all in literally a blink of an eye. And that's testament to not just the technology that we have put in place to make that happen, but also very agile team working. And this is the experience that we transport to our larger enterprise customers like banks and manufacturers. And we sort of cheekily tell them, if we can do for F1, then we can do that for everybody else. So I think that's a partnership that we're really, really proud of. Yeah.
And as companies now sort of bed into this world of AI, how do they move from the hype to actually practical integration across organizations from your vantage point?
I think the biggest, as of now, the biggest drawback that we see is people are looking at AI as a tool, trying to see what use cases that we can work with. But really, in our opinion, AI needs to be embedded. It needs to be absorbed into the DNA of an organization and needs to be thought more holistically. We ourselves, we have sort of developed a framework, and we are asking our customers to probably do the same. What this framework does is we are evaluating ourselves on one axis on the capabilities, where we look at strategy, talent, culture, because those are very crucial element of how we think about AI. And on the y-axis, we are looking at what outcomes we are delivering for that. Is it in terms of cost savings, in terms of improved experiences for employees and customers, in terms of actual revenue that brings in, so real measurable ones on both the axes. And we have said, you are in the early stage of experimentation. You are, and the topmost end is real achievement that we do. And we have administered that in different parts of our organization, and looking at our HR teams and how where they fit. So different parts of the organization are at different maturity levels, but that gives us a starting point on how we improve. So I think my firm view is you need to look at AI. It's the new operating system. It's the new DNA that we need to evolve. We're also doing, for example, in the HR, how does a future job description look for an employee, right? So what an employee does today and what the person needs to do tomorrow for the same job would be very different with the help of AI. So we are actually writing down what the North Star job description is going to look like. So that's one element. The employees also, and we've implemented a full agentic AI integrated to our learning systems. So when somebody goes into that, they would know where they are today, and in order to get to the North Star job description, what are the skills that they need to acquire? And this agent would keep nudging the person to say, you need to acquire these skills. These are the courses available for you, so you need to do that. So these are something, I think, you need to move the entire organization along on the full axis of strategy, talent, and culture, and constantly measure what outcomes you're going to deliver. That's what is going to help people to move from the hype to reality.
Yeah, because as you say, you need to embed it across the entire organization. And it seems that maybe some organizations are struggling to move from that pilot phase into really embedding it across the organization and then being able to scale it. Is that what you're seeing? And what do you think companies need to do to ensure that they are embracing it for scale?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we advocate is more platform thinking as opposed to thinking that in silos. And what I mean by platform is there are 3 essential elements in platform. So we ourselves have just launched an agentic AI with voice AI embedded in that. So what I mean by platform is First and foremost is integration. Yeah. So the data is all fragmented in many places. So how do you unify data and get it to a place where it's accessible by the agentic AI? You don't have to bring all the data to one place. That's another challenge with all the regulations in different parts of the world. You can't. So, but you still need to be able to access all the data, and that's what is a seed for the intelligence. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we're doing about when we think about platform is it's an intelligent orchestration, right? Because the models bring the intelligence, and there are different models. And we talked about Mistral, we talked about other. So there are different models that brings the intelligence. But what is missing is more intelligent orchestration across these. And that is where the context gets lost. Right. So in our voice AI, for example, when the voice AI calls a customer, it knows the context of the customer, that this customer, for example, if it is what we're implementing for a large automotive OEM, is the customer has been looking at cars, and this person has been looking at more adventure-oriented. They want to travel long distance, and it could be another person who's looking more at safety features. So when a voice AI calls that customer for giving him a nudge, it would know the context of this customer and fine-tune the conversations according to that, so you can get to the first goal of booking the test drive, because that's the first goal. So it's so that is something that the whole world is moving towards now, context engineering, and that context gets lost. Even humans lose that context. Yeah. Whereas with AI, you can remember the context, you can bring that all together. So that is the second layer that I talk about, which is how do you bring more intelligent orchestration once you have unified the data. And the third is about governance, right? The guardrails that you require so the trust can be there. The guardrails to make sure that the models are not drifting, and you can make it more self-learning, as well as wherever is required, the human interventions that is required to make sure the models don't drift. And once you start drifting, then you lose the trust in the model. Right? So these are the three important elements of a platform, and we've been able to bring that together. So my formula for doing that at scale, besides the first thing that I talked about, the maturity, is about platform thinking, which brings the integration, intelligent orchestration, and appropriate guardrails for that. And as part of the governance, also I would put cost as an important element, because people don't think about the cost. People know that when they move to cloud, I say it's Hotel California, you go in and you can check in, but you can't check out. The cost is very high, the egress costs are very high, the costs are, with AI, especially when people implement at scale, they're going to be doing so much of inferencing, the cost of inferencing is going to really skyrocket. And people have to think about it very consciously when they choose the platforms, when they choose the models, and think about how they have to scale. So I would put these three as critical factors if companies have to move from pilot to the scale stage.
And we have to wrap, which is really unfortunate, because we could talk all day, which we can continue to do afterwards. But just real quick before we do, I just want to understand from you, do you think organizations are ready? Very quickly, do you think they are ready, and what they need to do to make sure they are prepared across their infrastructure, across cloud compliance? Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think people are ready for scale. I think the infrastructure is very fragile across the networks. And when you talk about networks, the LAN, the WAN, the cloud, the data is fragmented. And all these fragmentation means that the AI is just going to add more stress to this fragile infrastructure. So one of our customers that I was talking to in London, they said they've transformed their applications, they're doing AI, but network has been the last bastion of change. And somehow network is seen to be the last bastion to touch. We believe that people have to start thinking about it, prepare the grounds of the entire digital infrastructure, especially if you're a multinational company. How do you think about your network, where your data resides, how are you going to integrate all of this? And make it really, and that's why we came up with this concept of a digital fabric that truly helps companies to uncomplicate things, and then you can innovate from there.